The only difference is here, rather than putting $1,000 in an IRA and then going out and buying some stock or some bonds, and then we start this whole journey, right? Here you're putting in something you already own.
What is the deferred sales trust? It seems too complicated, right? It's too good to be true. Okay, we figured out the legal, it's proven, it's done. Okay, but the next thing is, but it's just too complicated for me or my advisors to understand. My counter to that, I'm curious what you think, David. It's, well, they haven't done it yet, or their clients haven't done it yet until someone's done it that they know. And kind of like your story, right? Where you said you had the technical part of it, you had the practical part of it, and then you had the application with a friend of yours, right? And you're saying, okay, all three, and that helps to solidify that. And you can't also beat them up too much, because sometimes they're calling us with 30 days to go, right? And this is a $10 million business sale. All of a sudden they're looked up and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a $4 million liability, tax liability. Oh my gosh. And it's such an emotional big thing. And they go, I don't understand everything over there, so I'm just going to either A, not do it, or acquiesce to what my CPA says, who's never seen it either. So just walk through and try to put us, if you're in their shoes, David, right? Not trying to take us out of it. Being in the industry, 15 years, you're 30 years. Take us out of it and help the client right now who's looking at this and saying, I just don't fully get it. How do I know I can trust that I'm going to be okay?
So let's see. And Brett, I'll ask you to chime in here a little bit too. We can kind of tag team on this one. It's funny. Someone, at least in terms of conceptually, compared and contrasted a deferred sales trust with either a basic IRA or a self-directed IRA, where someone might elect to purchase a piece of real estate in your IRA, which you can do. There's such a thing as a real estate IRA, right? And it's just like the other one, except it's buy real estate in there. And now there it's different because it would be an initial purchase, or you'd be investing in something that hadn't appreciated yet. But if you forget about that part, right? What is it really? It's an IRS tax code, just like 401k and the IRA tax codes, right? There's a bunch of them, right? Which basically says that if you're investing money or owning an asset for these set of purposes, which we believe to be, good, retirement, whatever the case might be, right? There's some elements of kind of the tax code wanting to incent, the right kinds of behavior. And you open up this particular type of an account and it's conforming, right? It's got to meet these different rules and regulations. Then if you put an asset in there, you could buy one share of stock or whatever, right? Put an asset in this instrument, it will grow tax qualified. In that case, we say tax deferred, right? Until such time. And there's some other conditions about age, which aren't part of this. That's because that's a retirement, right, vehicle, whereby you can defer payment of taxes. When you turn a certain age or choose to take it out, there might be a penalty if you take it out. It's really not different. It's if you keep it super, super, super simple. The only difference is here, rather than putting $1,000 in an IRA and then going out and buying some stock or some bonds, and then we start this whole journey, right? Here you're putting in something you already own. And then there's a note that comes back representing your ownership. There's a trustee overseeing it, right? There's all these different parties who are in place to manage it and make sure it does what it's supposed to do. It's really fundamentally no different. And so when you boil it down to its simplest comparative wrapper, something like an IRA, which we're all very familiar with, most of us are very familiar with, I think you demystify it.
Very well said. Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. Couldn't agree with you more.